Pothuluri Veerabrahmendra. Pothuluri Veerabrahmendra was born according to the legend in the 17th century. Other version is between 1500 to 1510 AD in a small village near Banaganapalli, Kurnool district, Andhra Pradesh, India. Very little is known about Sri Veerabrahmendram's childhood except that he was the son of Sri Paripurnachari and Smt Prakrithamba and that he grew up under the care of foster parents. Sri Veera Bhojacharya, head of the Papagni Math near Nandikonda, and his wife Smt Veera Papamba, lovingly called Viram Bhotleya. He used to impress everyone by his extraordinary intelligence and spiritual bent of mind. When in his 13th year his foster father died, he not only bore the blow calmly but proved a pillar of strength to his desolate mother. His philosophic talks made her understand the illusory nature of attachments and the continuum of consciousness in life and death. Realizing that her son is an enlightened soul, Papamba gave him permission to leave home and go on a pilgrimage to holy places. While Viram Bhotleya was visiting Harihara Kshetra, he came across a yogi named Ananda Bhairava. Ananda Bhairava confessed to Viram Bhotleya that he took to sannyasa as a mark of repentance on his inadvertent killing of a cow. To liberate him from the sin of killing a cow, Viram Bhotleya initiated him into Dwadasakari mantra and gave him the boon that in his next birth he will be born in a family of cotton growers, and when he comes of age he would become his Viram Bhotleya's chief disciple. The next recorded evidence available about Sri Viram Bhotleya is his stay as a sage in a mat built for his use in Banaganapalli by an elderly devotee, a Kama. Legend has it that a Kama who initially entrusted Viram Bhotleya with the task of tending cows was surprised to hear that the young man was spending more of his time inside a cave scribbling something on palm leaf parchments. She followed him one day and saw him draw a line round the cattle and command them to stay within the line. The cattle implicitly obeyed his command, and a Kama realized that the boy was not an ordinary shepherd but must be a god-man of great powers. She walked into the cave, which was bright and aglow as with the light of 1,000 suns, and prostrating herself at his feet begged to be excused for having treated him as a menial. Viram Bhotleya gave her initiation into Dwadashakshari mantra and begged by her consented to stay for some more time in Banaganapalli. A Kama was one of the few who were given the privilege of listening to the future predictions written in the form of chants by Sri Viram Bhotleya. During his stay at Banagapalli Math, Viram Bhotleya used to bury the palm leaf parchments in a secret place underground, and visitors to this day make it a point to pay homage to the tamarind tree that grew in that spot. During the 12 years that he stayed in that village, Sri Viram Bhotleya performed many miracles. He restored eyesight to a Kama's son, Brahmananda Reddy, by suggesting a retribution for Reddy's sins of a past life. Once the Nawab of that region, who was jealous of the fame of Viram Bhotleya, sent word to him and after a hypocritical show of respect and courtesy, presented him a platter covered with a muslin cloth. Knowing that meat was taboo to the Hindu sage, he still filled the plate with dishes made of meat. Viram Bhotleya accepted the plate and removed the cloth cover. To the utter amazement of the Nawab and his courtiers, the platter was heaped with beautiful flowers with no trace of meat anywhere. The Nawab fell at his feet begging forgiveness and donated land for the founding of an ashram by Viram Bhotleya. Anijaya, a Brahmin disciple, used to look after the math and ashram, and it is he who made the predictions of his master known to the public. In the 12th year of his stay, entrusting the change of the ashram to Anijaya, Viram Bhotleya left for Kandimalayapalli, a village in Kadapa district. He used to work as a carpenter and soon became the spiritual leader of the village community. While visiting the temple in a nearby hamlet, Pedikomerla, Viram Bhotleya chanced to come across a funeral procession. Going near the bier, Veerabrahmendra sprinkled holy ash vibhuti on the corpse, and to the amazement of everyone, the dead man, one Mr. Reddy, got down and bowed to the feet of Veerabrahmendra. This created a sensation in the village, and most of the villagers began worshipping Veerabrahmendra as the very incarnation of God. A few non-believers wanted to play a trick on him. One of them lay down on a bier pretending to be dead, and the rest approached Veerabrahmendra with the request that their friend's life be revived. Wishing to teach them a lesson, Veerabrahmendra said their friend could not be brought back to life. The non-believers gleefully asked their friend to sit up, but were shocked to see that he was really dead. Moved by their pitiful pleas for forgiveness and help, Veerabrahmendra brought the young man back to life, and this won for him the respect and admiration of everyone. Veerabrahmendra accorded to a few seekers of that village knowledge of his Kala Jnana chants pertaining to events that would take place in the first 5,000 years of Kali Yuga. Sivakoteya was one of those seekers, and he reverentially offered his daughter Govindamma as bride to Veerabrahmendra. Hearing that Govindamma had chosen to remain unmarried all these years, as it was her wish to marry a man who is an embodiment of divinity, Veerabrahmendra smilingly gave his consent. After the marriage, the couple returned to Kandimalayapalli, and from there left on a pilgrimage to holy places. After a short visit to Banagnapalli, they returned to Kandimalayapalli. Devotees built an ashram for them, and Veerabrahmendra began to be worshipped by devotees as Veerabrahmendra. The couple were blessed with 4 sons and a daughter. All the children were devout like their parents and took active part in the spiritual program conducted in the ashram. One day, a 15-year-old Muslim boy, Sheikh Saab, came to the ashram to become a disciple of Sri Brahman. Brahmendra Swami's sons refused to allow him in because he was a Muslim. Brahmendra Swami rebuked them for their intolerance and allowed the boy to enter. He renamed the boy Siddhaya, who turned out to be the most loyal and devoted of his disciples. Siddhaya is none other than Ananda Bhairava, and in accepting him as disciple, Sri Brahmendra Swami was fulfilling a boon he granted earlier. Brahmendra Swami gave Siddhaya initiation into many spiritual practices, including Tarka Yoga. Accompanied by his disciples, Sri Veerabrahmendra Swami made a tour of all the important districts in the Andhra, Telangana and Rayalaseema regions. He halted for some time at Hyderabad and convening a meeting of goldsmiths. He gave discourses on the 3 important goals of life in the outer, middle and inner planes. He surprised everyone in the court of the Nawab by lighting a lamp that had water in it, instead of oil. After predicting the future of the Hyderabadi regime, he started home. On the way back, to teach a lesson to some of the disciples who resented what they thought was Brahmendra Swami favoritism to Siddhya, he pointed to the carcass of a dog and ordered his disciples to eat it. The carcass was decomposed, worm-ridden and emitting an unbearably foul smell. No one wanted to go near it. Siddhya sat by its side and began eating it with relish as if it was a succulent sweet dish. This demonstration of Siddhaya's implicit obedience to the words of the Guru shamed the disciples into repentance. One more instance of Sri Veerabrahmendra Swami miraculous powers was revealed to the disciples when a Brahmin couple fell on the feet of Swamiji and begged him to cure the Brahmin of the dreadful disease of leprosy. Brahmendra Swami not only cured him but gave the couple initiation, blessed them and sent them home in a happy frame of mind. By the privilege of association with Godman, disciples also acquire spiritual stature. This is proved in the life of Siddhaya, who was fortunate to learn from Brahmendra Swami the significance of reincarnation and the way to achieve liberation from the cycle of births. The Nawab of Kadapa was angry that the Muslim-born Siddhaya became the disciple of a Hindu saint and sent word to Siddhaya to come and give an explanation for his conduct. Siddhaya's impassioned speech on Advaita not only placated the Muslim countries but converted all of them into devotees of Brahmendra Swami. The Nawab felt piqued that Siddhaya did not bow down to him and rebuked him for his insolence. Siddhaya then ordered the attendants of the Nawab to bring into the hall a big black chunk of rock. When it was brought in, Siddhaya bowed down to it and immediately it broke into 1,000 pieces. Siddhaya told the Nawab that had he bowed to him, the Nawab's head also would have broken into pieces. Understanding that Siddhaya had now acquired such spiritual status that only Brahmendra Swami was fit to receive obeisance from him, the Nawab begged for forgiveness. Once, overhearing Brahmendra Swami's expounding of the 6 energy centers, chakras, to Siddhaya, the cobbler Kakaiya wanted to see for himself the deities presiding over each of the chakras. He murdered his sleeping wife and dissected her body. Failing to see any deities, he rushed to Brahmendra Swami, fell his feet and weeping made a confession of what he did. Taking pity on him, he accompanied him to his house and ordered Siddhaya to follow him. Once inside the hut, Swamiji invoked the deities of the chakras and showed them to Siddhaya and Kakaiya, and then with a touch of his hand he made whole the dissected body of Kakaiya's wife and restored her to life. Among the hundreds of miracles performed by Brahmendra Swami, mention may be made of his gulping down molten iron, of teaching a lesson to the arrogant Brahmins of Nandyal by making Siddhaya eat up all the rice they prepared for serving at a feast, of describing to a Nawab the features of a colt still in the womb of its mother, of proving to a group of hostile scholars that there is no scriptural injunction against non-Brahmins learning and reciting Vedas. Once a group of thieves who entered the ashram at dead of night to loot it, lost their eyesight. Next day, taking pity on the blind robbers, Swamiji talked to them about the need for honesty and right living and restored vision to them. At another time when, without telling him, his wife Govindamma cooked payasam to be offered to goddess Poramma, made the deity come in person to partake of the offering. On the last day of his earthly existence, he gave trusteeship of the ashram to his son Govindachari and then told his wife that all their sons will meet with an early death, that there would be no progeny to supervise the ashram and that their daughters' descendants would take charge of the math. That day they deliberately sent Siddhaya on an errand to collect flowers for the worship of God, because he knew that Siddhaya cannot bear the sight of his beloved Guru's dying. When Siddhaya came to know of Brahmendra Swami's death, he was overcome by grief and tried to commit suicide. Taking pity on him, Brahmendra Swamiji came out of the grave to present him with his scepter, sandals, ring and cane. He blessed him with clairvoyance and commanded him to go to the village Mudumal, get married and spend his life in the Rajayoga path. Siddhaya obeyed every one of these commands. At the time of Brahmendra Swami's advent, India was plunged in religious feuds between Hindus and Muslims. Humanism was crushed in the name of the illusory supremacy of caste. Brahmendra Swami preached the religion of love, which cuts across all man-made balas of creed, sect and caste. His disciples included Brahmins like Anujaya, Muslims like Siddhaya and untouchables like Kakaiya. His progressive outlook is reflected in managing a mature maiden like Govindamma at a time when child marriages were the accepted social convention. Most Nawabs of the time were his ardent devotees, and this helped in promoting communal harmony. After he left the physical body, hundreds of Brahmendra Swami's disciples propagated his teachings and traveled from one place to another chanting the predictions written by him. Like Vemana's teachings, the chants of Brahmendra Swami also are simple and evoke immediate emotional response from listeners. Some of Brahmendra Swami's predictions are in prose form. Some are written as moral maxims. Some offer exposition on philosophy, spiritualism, and yoga practice. Some are written as couplets. Many poems in praise of Kalikamba have been written by Veerabrahmendra Swami. Some of these contain cryptic esoteric truths. These will be intelligible only to initiates in yoga. His songs are most popular among religious mendicants. As in scriptures like Bhavishya Purana, Bhagavatam and Harivansam, his predictions are mostly about the historical, geographical and social changes that will take place towards the end of Kali Yuga. As is supposed to be the case with the Western prophet Nostradamus, Veerabrahmendra Swami's predictions also have proved to be true. His chants make anticipatory references to British rule in India, the disintegration of the caste system, rapid strides in science and technology, invention of trains and automobiles, growing dependence on electricity and electronic gadgets, the advent of Mahatma Gandhi, widow remarriages and social acceptance of divorces, the fall of aristocracy and the mounting prominence of weaker sections of society. Veerabrahmendra Swami's chants also mention that power in the millennium will be in the hands of women and actors, and that society will witness a proliferation of fakes and quacks, and that there will be a general dwindling of moral values, and that honest people would be at the mercy of criminals and rowdies. One positive feature about the chants of Veerabrahmendra Swami is their envisaging of an egalitarian society where all class distinctions and caste division would be eroded and the gates of opportunity would be thrown open to all, the rich and the poor, men and women. As in Nostradamus, in the Kala Janana chants of Veerabrahmendra Swami also freaks and deformities and monstrosities in nature, irrespective of their pertaining to the plant, animal or human kingdoms, are always mentioned as bad omens betokening disasters about to take place. Similarly, comets and meteorites are used as indices of imminent social and historical upheavals. Laxity in pointless orthodoxy is condoned, but dire warning is consistently used against straying from the path of dharma. Both wars, which are the outcome of human greed and hatred, and calamities of nature like floods and earthquakes, are traced to the root cause: disharmonious lifestyles.